Welcome back everybody, and in today's video I'm going to go through the sine rule, when and how to use it. This question is in degrees, so we'll be working in that. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode, and let's get started. Okay, so the brief introduction to sine rule involves labeling the triangle up correctly. So in this case, I've just labeled A, B, and C in uppercase. Now, what you must do to begin with is, if that is uppercase A, then this will be lowercase a over here. So regardless of which letters that you're using, you must use the upper and lower cases correctly, as in the angles are uppercase and the corresponding sides, which are the opposite ones, are lowercase. Okay, you need to set that up in that way in these questions, otherwise this sine rule will not work correctly. I provided the sine rule for you over here. Depending on what course you do, you may need to remember this or you can recite it. But what I can also say is that you can reverse the fractions, so to turn them upside down, and this will also be true. Okay, so sine B over B equals sine C over C. Now, at any one time, you'll only ever use two of these expressions. They're all equal to each other. So like at any one time, you'll only ever really need to use like two. So there should only be one equal sign in between. That is important, and you'll see in the example below how I use those appropriately. Now, if you are trying to find a side, I'd recommend that you use the form at the top here. If you're trying to find an angle, I'll just recommend that you use this form. But really, you can always rearrange the equation to make it what you want it. But I'm just sort of saying, as a start point, maybe that's where you could begin. In this question, I will be using the area of a triangle, and that is half AB sine C.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Okay, so let's start the question. Let's have a quick look at this on the left here. We have points A, B, and O. It says calculate the size angle ABO. So A to B to O. Right, so when it says that, it means that it wants us to try and find this angle here. Right, so this is what we want to find. So it's basically angle B. Therefore then, if we're labeling up the triangle, like I mentioned a moment ago, let's label the opposite sides, the lowercase values of these. So if that's angle B, this would be lowercase b. And we also have this side O down here, which is like in the corner. Now, you can use O, or you could just label that up as C if you want. Now, because the formula I just showed you was C, I could just label it up as C, and therefore then this corresponding or opposite side would be lowercase c, right? So therefore we can set up a relationship where we have sine B over B is equal to sine C over C. Now, if you notice, I set up the sine on the numerator because I said if you're trying to find an angle, that's sometimes a little bit easier. It just means like some less working out later down the line. So what is sine B? Well, we don't know that. That's what we're going to try and find. But we do know B. Okay, so B is 25.9. Sine C, that was like the value that was sort of labeled O. Okay, so that would be sine 10 over C, and that was the opposite side, which is 6.36. Now, with a quick calculation here, by multiplying both sides by 25.9, so if you times this side by 25.9, it will cancel with this here. So we times this side by 25.9. Okay, therefore then we're left with just sine B. So sine B is equal to sine 10 over 6.36, okay, times 25.9. Okay, now we don't want sine B, we want just B, which is the angle B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to inverse sine both sides. If I inverse sine the left-hand side, we'll just be left with B. But now we want to inverse sine, okay, everything here. We want to inverse sine all of this. So let's jump over to the calculator and punch that in. Okay, so I've put all that into the calculator. Inverse sine of sine 10 over 6.36 times 25.9, and we got a grand total of 45.0 degrees, rounded to 3 significant figures. Okay, so I've put 45 degrees into the angle B, which is what we found in part A. Now we just need to find the area of the triangle. So there was a formula on the previous sort of slide, which was the area of the triangle is half A times B. Now those are the sides A and B, not the angles, times sine of angle C. So what can get confusing here is if your triangle is labeled up as A, B, and C, and it doesn't correspond to this formula, that's where things can get complicated. So what I'll just briefly explain is no matter what the triangle is labeled as, you want this angle inside here, and then you want the two corresponding sides that are basically converging to that angle. Okay, so regardless of what it's labeled up as, you want the angle, let's call it this angle C, to be this one, and then the two corresponding sides, A and B, will be here and here. So in this case here, what we've got is I have a mixture of things. I have like A, B, and O, and then different angles. Well, the first thing you should be able to notice is that if this is 10 and this is 45, then those sum up to 55. So therefore, then this last angle, let's use a better color here, would be 125, because remember, all angles in the triangle must add up to 180. So 125 plus 55 makes 180. Now, if you can see on the outside here, I have a side, okay, and another side, and I have the interior angle. So I'm just completely ignoring the labeling at this point in time. This is 125, and I know that this is 25.9, and this is 6.36. So let's go ahead and punch that into the calculator now. We've got a half times 25.9 times 6.36, which are the two sides, and the angle in between those was 125. Press enter and you get 67.5 rounded to three significant figures, and there are no units stated in the question, so you would just write units squared as it's an area. So don't forget that, because you could get marked down for that. Okay, good luck with your Sine Rule questions. Let me know how you get on in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.